To me, Sister Rising was another excellent episode of American Gods. I know if you left this show, this probably isn't the type of episode that's going to bring you back, but to me, considering that they lost so many cast members, and they've lost another one, and the fact that their budget took a hit and all the problems that they've had in trying to get this to the screen, I feel the fact that they've found some sense of direction in season 3 is pretty impressive, and I feel like this is honestly as good as the show could be given the stuff going on behind the scenes at this point. It wasn't without its problems. I personally have a slight issue with what they're doing with Bilquis, not because I don't like that they're pivoting from this idea of using her as this figure that's kind of the horror of female sexuality and how it's used as a weapon. She's a literal honey trap. I don't mind them pivoting from that. I think the issue for me more is that at various points in the series, they've made it pretty clear that the gods are a reflection of the way that their worshipers view them. It's not just that they're not just individuals that have their own identity, they're also reflections of the way that they are viewed. We saw this in particular, I would argue, with the figure of Jesus, who there were multiple versions of him because he means so many different things to different people. So in this episode, for Bilquis to basically argue, well, they pigeonholed me and I have to remember who I actually am and to move away from this identity that they've given to me, it's a nice sentiment, and I think it fits well with Bilquis the individual, but I'm not sure if it fits with the other themes of the show. I think that it seems a little fishy to me that suddenly, a god who has traditionally been viewed one way or another way can just decide for themselves who they are and how they're going to be viewed from now on. I did appreciate the sequence where Bilquis came into her own and used the powers that she was accessing through her connection to the Orisha. And I thought that the use of her new power set there was very interesting. I thought it was well done, but it wasn't just an excuse to have, visual effects on screen. It was very integral to the character. And I'm interested to see if this is like a turning point for the character, if she has, become a different person, if she's going to still use her sexuality the way she has in the past, or if this is her, so to speak, turning over a new leaf. I think that her scene with Shadow, where she's kind of helping him to see perhaps how he may be taking on this identity based on what Odin has in mind for him, I thought that this was interesting, but it was also interesting to see within this very episode how Odin kind of pulls Shadow into pulling this con. So to a certain extent, Shadow is seemingly at this point still content to take on the identity that Odin has for him. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out throughout the series, and if his relationship to Bilquis is going to be something that can pull him back in the other direction. I think that, a lot of people wanted my take on the Orisha in the comments. I don't really know that much about them, and I didn't really want to just info dump here things that you could go out and look up online. I felt like they've basically been peripheral, and the real importance of them has been to showing how Bilquis has lost sight of her connection as a part of this greater whole, and how as she, in this moment where she was being tortured, I watched this interview with Yetide Badaki where she talked about how in this sequence, what she really appreciated about it is how as she went inside herself, Bilquis found her connection to the ancestors, because when you go inside yourself, as she does, you're more in touch with yourself, which is to learn about them because they are in you. So I thought that was a really interesting theme, and it really gave me a lot of understanding of what was going on in the last 2 episodes. And I thought that it made the scene more powerful having read that interview. I definitely enjoyed the cold open this episode. I thought that it was interesting. I think that I have always found Bruce Langley's performance as Technical Boy kind of irksome. Like, I felt like he was doing good acting, but I didn't realize how good acting until I saw him here, and we see this origin story for Technical Boy where he was originally this well-mannered son of Temperance. And watching him act in a more, as I said, well-mannered and more subdued fashion helped me to realize how much acting Bruce Langley is doing to make Technical Boy be so abrasive and obnoxious. And seeing this conflict between him, I thought it was interesting because you kind of have the theme of the show, which is the conflict between technology and belief. And magic, to a certain extent, as practiced by this magician at the fair, it depends on belief. And it was interesting to see how, even though Technical Boy is showing these people this stuff that really is the future, like it has so much potential to change people's lives that they don't even know, but they're more interested in the trickery and in the power of this magician to cast a spell and give them something that they feel entranced by and want to believe in. Now, this is not my commentary on religion per se. This is the show's commentary on religion, but I think it's interesting and it kind of shows what the show has been getting at in a lot of places. I thought it was interesting that religion, or magic, as you will, ended up kind of getting the better of technology or science in this situation by tricking Technical Boy into being a charlatan, essentially, by pretending to have created something he hasn't actually created yet. They caused people to lose faith in science or technology, which I think is interesting because it is kind of true, because people, science and technology have done so much for people in their everyday lives, but the minute that science oversteps, the minute that it claims to have accomplished something or to have greater knowledge than it actually does, people immediately turn on a dime. And it's interesting to see, even in this day and age, the enduring power of magic and the enduring power of belief. Now, getting to the number 37 sequence with Shadow and Cordelia, I feel that this was about as well executed as American Gods could have done it. They did a lot of very nice stylistic flourishes, the split screens, the music. I thought that Cordelia, the actress, has a lot of flair, and I suspect that she's probably either somehow related to Odin and Shadow, or she is another goddess in disguise. There is something up with this character. But as I said, she had a lot of flair, the way that she changed costumes as she went down that hallway. She just had a lot of style and pizzazz to the way she did it. And I, thought that for his part, Ricky Whittle really did a nice job with the phone conversation and his in-person scene where he had to fool the man into taking his phone and not calling 911 or hotel security immediately. This was a short sequence, but I thought, it was a nice little homage to caper films. I am not the biggest fan of heist movies myself, but I can acknowledge when one is being done well. And as I said, I think this kind of played into the fact that Shadow, as much as he isn't really certain who he is, he does find himself drawn to this sort of thing. As much as he doesn't want to go along with Odin, he finds himself pulled in. I liked the scene between Shadow and Demeter, played by Blythe Danner. I thought that I was interested to see how they would interact, because obviously she's not his mother. But the way that they played it up is they used it to show how Shadow has Odin in him and how Demeter can recognize this. And it'll be interesting to see what level of affection Odin actually has for Demeter. Obviously Cordelia says she thinks it's for real, that she's never seen him so excited or so nervous and giddy about a person. But we know that with Odin, he has certain desires and certain needs that seem to oftentimes supersede his love for anyone or anything. So it'll be interesting to see if this is all just leading to a great betrayal of Demeter on his part. Lastly, the ending with Shadow meeting up with Laura in the local diner in Lakeside. I find this interesting because obviously they're taking a significant, a different approach to Laura than the novel was at this point. And I'm interested to see where they go with this. Obviously, they're kind of setting up a love triangle, seemingly, between Laura and Shadow and Marguerite. And last time Shadow saw Laura, he kind of was like, we're going our separate ways, not talking to you anymore. So it's interesting to have her back and to see how this is going to all go down. I'm not sure how well Salim fits into this plot that Laura has to kill Odin. Obviously, she has motivated reasons for wanting to do this. I feel like Salim really doesn't. And I feel like this is just an attempt by the writers to keep him in the show. And it's kind of just blatantly obvious that they don't have anything to do with him now that the Jinn has moved on and is, the actor is no longer in this series, or at least is not in the series at this point. So to me, I'm not sure I find their dynamic interesting. I did find Laura's new philosophy on life after spending years in purgatory to be pretty interesting. She was always a fascinatingly jaded character, and to see her become even more jaded after her time in the afterlife is pretty interesting stuff. I'm feeling increasingly that I would be saddened if this show did not get more seasons, but look at the ratings. I don't know that that's necessarily a deal breaker. I know that, oftentimes the fact that Starz releases their episodes digitally early might mean that nobody's watching it live, everybody's watching it earlier in the day, like I do. But I have concerns that there will not be more seasons of this show, especially since actors keep leaving and they keep cutting the budget. So to me, I would like there to be more seasons, but I'm not confident that there will be. So that's too bad. But let me know what you thought in the comments. If you're interested in seeing more reviews on this channel of other upcoming shows, please consider subscribing. And as always, thank you for watching.